Hello and welcome to Beautiful Literature. I am so glad that you could join us today. My name is Teacher Martha, and it's good to see you and good to see that you're following up on the things we've been doing here on Beautiful Literature. And today, previously we've been able to look at paper 1 and look at it, just the general overview. And today I want us to look at paper 2. And paper 2 is an equally important paper. It is actually the longest paper in the tested in the English, and therefore paper 2 carries 80 marks. Out of the 200 marks, it carries 80 marks. That means it carries higher marks than the other two papers. And therefore, let me go straight into what is expected in paper 2. Now, paper 2 has got 4 sections. And in those 4 sections, it is important for us to know exactly what it is you do where and how do you score the highest mark. Let's begin with number 1. In every paper 2, you will start with a comprehension. And a comprehension carries 20 marks. I want to believe everyone who's been to class, whether you're in primary school or in secondary school, you have interacted with a comprehension. And unfortunately, comprehensions are the ones, the most ignored part of this paper, because I don't know, we take them a bit lightly. And those are the ones that even a teacher who is not, like, for example, myself, when I am tired and I don't feel like I want to teach so much today, I will go for a comprehension. Why? Comprehension is a bit easy, even for the class, even for the students I know. When it's a comprehension time, it becomes a bit easier. And like when you're dealing with the prepositions, the noun phrases and all that, and you're being engaged so much. And so comprehensions, unfortunately, because of how easy we take it, we assume it's easy. Most of the students don't perform very well. And I would want to let you know that if there is an area that you shouldn't fail is in comprehensions. And therefore, comprehension has got 20 marks. And just because it's a general overview, we are not looking into the details. You'll look at the details later when we pick a comprehension and go through it with you. For today, I just wanted to highlight a few things as we move on. And maybe to just mention, one of the mistakes that we make when you're dealing with comprehensions is that we never read the comprehensions well. Comprehensions means comprehend. You cannot comprehend until you read in details and understand exactly what it is. So you're expected to read that comprehension, that passage. Just read it through. When you read it through, you make sure you understand. And so I see some students who go, when you're given a paper, you go straight to the questions. You go through the questions, and then you go back to the comprehension to look for the answers there. That is a totally wrong way of going about it. Don't be in a hurry, because actually you've already been given an opportunity for you. The time for reading and going back to look for the answers is accounted for in your long time that is given for you, for the over 2 hours that you're given to deal with paper 2. So don't be in a hurry that you're in a hurry to finish. You have been given time to read that passage, understand it, and also be given time to go back and look at the answers and the questions and the answers. So kindly, when you're dealing with comprehensions, just don't be in a hurry. Whether the comprehension is boring, sometimes some of them are a bit boring. They're not as interesting. Others are technical. They have technological issues, concerns and themes. So therefore, you don't find it very interesting. Others just have some factual things. You don't even like it very much. Others are very interesting. They have a very nice storyline, and you love it and you want to read it. And so, irrespective of how the content of that comprehension, the expectation is that you're supposed to read through it, comprehend and understand every paragraph for you to be able to answer that question well. And so therefore, first begin by reading and understanding. Number 2, when it goes to the answering of the questions, make sure that you answer those questions in complete form. Unfortunately, most of us begin the answers with because you asked a question, and then the answer you start with because this and this and this. That is an incomplete answer. It is not a sentence. It is not complete, and therefore you will be deducted some marks. You'll be penalized for writing incomplete answers. So avoid starting your questions with because this is, and all that. So use as much as possible. Number 2 thing is that use the words and the phrases that are in the comprehension. I know some of us students who want to look very brilliant sometimes, and you want to impress the examiner, and you're given the question, and the way you're answering, you find your own words. You're saying the same thing, but you're using your own words, you're paraphrasing, and you're not using the words and the phrases that are used in the comprehension. The reason you're given that comprehension is for you to use it. So therefore, avoid reading, avoid coming up with your own choice of words, your own sentences, your own words, and paraphrasing. Just use whatever answers you're given, questions you're given. The answers are right there in your comprehension. Just pick them. Just copy paste. It's only that now you'll have to copy paste the right thing, but don't paraphrase it. And so the other thing that maybe I just want to mention as you go into that is that you need to be careful about the number of marks given in every question. That should guide you on how much you're going to write. For example, if a question has 4 marks or 3 marks and you write 1 sentence, if there is a paper that you need to write and write and write, is paper 2. Paper 1, there isn't so much writing. But in paper 2, you are expected to write and write. Don't be in a hurry. Give as many answers as you can. You'd rather be dealing with, you said so much, and like, you give so little, because if a question has got 4 marks and you write 2 sentences, most likely, not always, but most likely, you may not be able to get the 4 marks. So as much as possible, write all the answers and let the marks given guide you on how much you're going to write. How many points do you need? So therefore, don't ignore the marks given. Actually, in every paper, you need to be careful about the marks given in every question. And maybe just to mention, one of the areas that I find students struggling a lot is in summary writing. When you're told to do the summary writing in that comprehension questions, and you are told to do note-taking, to make notes, when you're told to in point form, I see students struggling a lot in that. I would want to encourage you to go back and also join us in the WhatsApp group. You'll be able to see a bit of that we'll be doing there. And also raise those, if you have a question that you know, that is, you're not very sure how to do the summary writing, just engage in the comment section, engage at the WhatsApp group, and let's engage there. And let's learn, how do you do note taking? If you're told to take notes, if you're told to do a summary writing, how do you write that? Sometimes you're told in about 50 words or in not more than this number of words. Now, that is an area where most of the students will go wrong. So we will engage more. Maybe in the next time, we will discuss more how to handle that part of the comprehension. But in the meantime, just engage. Let's engage and see what we can do. So that is a question on comprehension. I will not go into the details in the interest of time. We will come back to that later. And so that is 20 marks. So out of that, make sure at least you get around 15, because why wouldn't you? And you have all the answers there. And maybe just to mention something as we wind up on that, there is those 5 questions that you're given at the end of every comprehension. And you're told that according to, give the meaning of the following words or phrases or word or sentences according to the comprehension. Sometimes those words you're given or those phrases you're given, you have never even, they're not easy phrases. They are actually the phrases you don't know. And sometimes you even have no idea what they are. And I see some students leaving blank spaces, which is very sad, because actually blank spaces are the last thing you should ever have. Even if you don't know the meaning of those words that are there, you're given a word and you have never come across that word at all. I encourage you to use something we call inference, where you are able to just, I don't want to call it guesswork, but go back to the comprehension and look at that sentence where that word is used and ask yourself, what could be the meaning? Because you can understand the other words surrounding that word or in that sentence. Try to draw meaning from that. Even if you don't understand it, don't leave a blank space. As much as possible, try to process in your mind what could be the author meaning, even if you don't know the exact word. If you read through it, read through that passage, that paragraph, by that reading, you'll be able to come up with something close to what the word means. And you will get it right, but don't leave a blank space because you say that you didn't know. So that is comprehension, 20 marks. Let me go to the next one. That is the excerpts, and some people will call it the extract, excerpts, whatever you call it, and that takes 25 marks. Can you imagine? A whole 25 marks. And that is, now you have a 20 for the comprehension, you have 25 for the excerpt. Let me also say something before even I go on, that the other part, there's a part that is at the end of this paper, that is the grammar part, that has 15 marks. And most of the students, they are very good at rushing to the end. You begin your paper from Numa. You want to start with the easy part and come to the to the front later because you, for whatever reason, I want to highly discourage you to do that. Because you see, the comprehension and the excerpt, they are very intense. They require you to really think through so much. And therefore, you are expected to engage a lot. And when your mind is fresh, that is when you need to handle the comprehension. It is when you need to handle the excerpt. And so don't go starting with the easy, and then when your mind is a bit tired and exhausted is when you're coming to the comprehension and the excerpt. And if you look at the grammar bit, you realize it's easy. Most of the times it's a one word, you're writing one word, you're writing one sentence. But here you're writing stories and explaining a lot of things. So I encourage you, when you're dealing with paper 2, follow that order. Start with the comprehension and then come to the excerpt. And so in the excerpt, therefore, we are looking at an extract, a passage that has been picked from the set book. And so that is where now we say how beautiful literature is, in the sense that you are expected to have gone through your set books and have been able to familiarize yourself with them. You understand those books, you understand the story from the beginning to the very end. The storyline is so clear in your head, such that when you see that excerpt on the question paper, because you'll not be allowed to have a textbook with you. When you see that excerpt on paper, immediately you're able to in your head, you're able to see where it is in the book. You're able to say that is at the beginning of the book, somewhere in the middle, somewhere at the end, somewhere, you're able to place it somewhere. But if you read through an excerpt and you have no clue until you're thinking, my God, is this the same book I know? Is this a different edition because I don't seem to have? Now you're in trouble. And how will that happen if you have not interacted with your book very well? I know some students who don't love to read a lot. What they do, you pick a guide and you go through the guide and you're sorted and you decide, I am good to go. Now, if you're that kind of a student, this will give you trouble because you must have read the book for yourself. So therefore, I encourage you to, as many times as possible. In fact, someone says that if you can still tell us how many times you've read a book, then it's not enough. You need to have read those set books until you have lost count because of the many times you have read. Well, I know sometimes it's not possible because of our schedules and our syllabus. It's so broad and so on, but you need to read that book and read it well. Those books, let me say those books. Now, allow me very quickly to just take us through a few questions that you will always find as far as the excerpt is concerned. These ones you will always find. I mean, these are free More Kenya. It's a free leakage. If you wanted to know what questions will be asked, these are questions that you will always find them in the excerpt questions. I'm hoping that you're noting them, some of them down somewhere. And remember, I will not go into the details because of this is not the time to do that. But later on, when you're looking at the excerpt, you look at the examples of excerpts and help you to answer those questions. But sometimes you'll be asked the number one question that always comes. Number one, you are told to explain what happens before this excerpt, or you can be asked what happens after this, immediately after, before this excerpt or immediately after this excerpt. That's a very common question. Yani, there is no excerpt that does not have that question. And therefore, what does that mean? That you need to understand that text so well so that when you see that excerpt in front of you in a paper, you're able to actually know before this what happened, immediately before, not way before, because when you write way before, you'll not get marks for it. Or immediately after this, I see the last sentence. What happens after that? And if you have not read the book, you have not interacted with the book, you'll not be able to answer that question. Now, in the same way, you realize that you will be told to answer the question on explain and place this excerpt in its immediate context. Place this excerpt in its immediate context. And you realize that way you're able to, you are expected to tell us what happened before and what happened after. If you're told to place an excerpt in its immediate context, you're supposed to place what happened before and what happened after. And so basically that is it as far as that question is concerned. Allow me not to go into the details of what else you need to do, but just to mention that the other questions you could be asked, you'll be told, where is this taking place? Like, for example, in the books that we are having, you can be asked, where is this taking place? You can be told to identify the characters in that text. You're told to identify the themes in that particular excerpt. You're told to identify the features in that text. You're also told to talk about the relevance of the features or the effectiveness, the relevance of the styles or the effectiveness of those styles in the text. Those are things that will be tested as far as the exams are concerned. And you know what? We will be right here to help you go through them. I will take you through them, take an excerpt, go through it together, discuss that in the WhatsApp group, discuss that in the comment section. Please engage and let us see how we can do that together. And maybe just to mention before I wind up is that whatever you are tested in the excerpt will not be tested in paper 3. For example, in this we are having 2 books. We are having the Fathers of Nations, and we're also having the Samaritan. It's a new text, and sometimes we're not very sure what they will test on. They could test the Fathers of Nations for the excerpt, or they could test the Samaritan for the excerpt. But looking at their trend, most likely, maybe they will test the Fathers of Nations as an excerpt. But it doesn't matter whether it's Samaritan or Fathers of Nation. All that you know is that you need to understand those texts very well. So I want to stop it at that, and note that we are not yet done with paper 2 because we still have 2 other parts remaining, and I will to handle that in the next video. And so kindly join me as we look at the oral poetry and the oral narrative and the grammar that is tested still in paper 2. And I want to hope that you have understood the comprehension and the excerpt, and I will see you next. And remember to share. Remember to talk to your friends about this and share with them, and let's share this good message. I'm hoping that it's helping you. Thank you for tuning in, and see you in the next one.